Hey everybody, welcome to the 3 Lost Secrets of Neville Goddard's teachings. Now, this training is going to be very hefty. I do apologize. This has part 1, part 2, and part 3. And if you hang in there to the end, there's a bonus section at the very end. Now, be patient because we're going to start off a little bit basic. Then from there, we're going to take off. Which I know that most of you out there understand this material. Most of you out there know who Neville Goddard is. Most of you out there already know law of assumption. But the main question ponders a little bit. You're not really living the life that you want. You're not getting results you want fast enough. Something's missing. Something's missing in your routine. Something's missing in your life. There's something that you haven't really pinpointed yet, but it's just missing. And that's what's keeping you from getting the abundance that you want. That's what's keeping you from having the life that you really deserve. But other than that, my friends, hold on and let's get started and let's shoot over to part 1. Step 1 with Neville Goddard is you have to set an intention. And most people here, just in the first step, even though it's basic, flub up kind of in this step. They mess up in this step. Even though it's a basic step, even though it's common sense. Well, Chad, I know I have to set an intention. I know I have to set a want. I know I have to set a desire or a goal that what I want to achieve or an object I want. That's an intention. That's what Neville Goddard called it, is you have to set an intention. But what your intention is, you have to have a burning desire. It has to be a strong intention. Something that you just don't want today, in a couple of days you change your mind and you don't want it. Now, I did say that most people flub up in this step. And it's because most people don't know what they want. And if they do know what they want, they have a very vague idea on what they want. Remember, the universe doesn't respond to you being vague. Okay? That's why some are struggling trying to achieve what they want, because for one, when you're vague, it causes confusion to the universe. It causes confusion to God. It doesn't know what you want. It doesn't know what to bring you. But lots of times, it actually just stops the manifesting process altogether, or you do get something, but it's not what you really want. So let me give you a couple examples here on vagueness. Okay, lots of times, I'm in Waihan right now. I'm at the beach. So when you hear people talk, and you hear people talk about what they want, their desires, their intentions, you hear people say, oh, I want to go on my dream vacation. Well, that's vague. What is your dream vacation? What does this dream vacation mean to you? What is it? Be specific. Be very, very specific. Where do you want to go? Your dream vacation might take you to the beach, but you hate the beach. You know what I mean? You hear people say, well, I want my dream house. Well, what's your dream house? How big is it? How many rooms you have? How big is your kitchen? Do you have a swimming pool, a jacuzzi? Do you have a garage? Do you have a game room? Okay, you have to know specifically what you want, because that's going to help you when we move over to step 2. Now, the most common one I hear all the time is really surfaces around money. Everybody wants more money. Everybody wants to be a millionaire. Everybody wants to be self-sufficient. They just want to be able to get by, have a good life. But you see how I'm talking? I'm talking very vague. I'm not talking very specific. So if you don't know what I mean, if you can ask questions and go dig deeper into what I'm saying, well, the universe is going to do the same thing. And it's going to bring vagueness into your life. And the worst case scenario, it's not going to bring nothing, because you've confused the universe. So when you want money, you want to be a millionaire, lots of times people struggle because they don't know how to, they're setting an intention of money, but what you have to do is, what type of lifestyle would that bring you? What would you be doing if you were a millionaire right now today? What type of vacations, what type of job would you have? Where would you live? What type of house? What type of cars? What type of charities? What would you be doing? Okay, it's not just wanting money. What would you be doing with it? What's your lifestyle? That's getting very, very specific. Now, let's move towards a little bit of homework I have for you.
Now this process, what I've been doing is called scripting. Now scripting is easy. All you're doing is writing down your intention. But this is how I'm doing it. This is how I'm doing it. Usually I do this in the morning. Now you can do this anytime during the day, anytime that suits you, but at least do it once per day. But I've been doing it in the morning, usually around when I'm drinking coffee. When I kind of wake up, I'm drinking coffee. I'll sit down at the table, usually on the balcony, and I'll do my scripting exercise. Now keep it simple. Day one, just write down your intention. Write down your goal, your intention. Be as specific as you can, what you normally are, but don't put pressure on you. Don't put tension with it. Don't put force with it. Remember, force negates. Force kind of expels everything from you. So just sit down, don't worry about it. Just write down your intention, write down what you want, write down, be as specific as you can in that moment. This is my day one. So I just wrote day one up here and I wrote out my intention. I wrote out my goal, okay? Now this is a little bit long, but I just wrote it out. Don't force it, just write out what you've been kind of mental rehearsing right now today. Now what you're gonna do, you're gonna do this over a series of days. Now the question is, how long should I do this, Chad? I would actually put this as a habit that you're doing daily, or I would at least do it for 7 days in a row, then maybe extend it, because the whole premise here is to get your intention very, very specific. Is get your intention very specific and you have no mental conflict, like what we discussed earlier. So then in day two, you see I cover the whole page. So I got a little bit more specific. And what I found in like my intention here, and I actually wrote on the back side also. Day three, I wrote a whole page. Then I filled up a whole page on the back side. So I'm getting more specific as I go. But what I found was when I would do this is that lots of times I'm picking an intention that has three or four, 5 little small little goals that kind of need to happen in order for me to get my main one intention. And this is a question a lot of people have, like, does it have to be only one thing all the time? In a perfect world, yes, but some intentions that we want, some goals that we want, it wraps around multiple things have to happen for you to get your intention. And lots of times when you try to mental rehearse this, it causes confusion. It causes confusion in your mind. It causes mental conflict. Remember, when you have mental conflict, what's really going to win is your really deepest core belief that you have around that intention. And to kind of give you a brief little example around this is that if you're setting like a money goal, you want to be a millionaire or a certain amount of money in a month, $100,000 a month. Well, what comes with that is lifestyle. So for example, if I'm in Thailand, little things that might have to happen is lifestyle, where I want to live. Do I want a house or a condo? Sometimes I want both. What type of visa am I going to be on? So I start searching visas, and to be kind of very specific on what type of visa I'm going to have when I set my intention. Okay, then I start researching what houses look like and stuff like that. So I have an idea. This all helps me when I set my intention. Okay, so I'm using scripting, but I'm also doing research with scripting, and I keep on kind of saying this over and over and over. The more detailed you can be, the more specific you are, is only going to help you. It's only going to make the process easier when we move on to step 2.
Right. Welcome to part 2 of Neville Goddard. Now, hopefully in part 1, remember in part 1 we talked about setting an intention and doing your scripting exercise. Now make sure you're doing your scripting exercise, because now in part 2, we're going to expand on the scripting exercise. Now part 2 is going to be very in-depth. There are going to be 3 separate parts here in part 2. Now in part 1, we're really going to focus on our imagination and living in the end. Now that's kind of the next part here where Neville Goddard teaches. It's one, going inside your imagination, okay? You live in the end. You act as if. Basically, you always hear Neville Goddard talking about, feeling the wish fulfilled. You're feeling. So when you go inside your imagination, you can actually see yourself do it inside your imagination. And you go even beyond seeing yourself do it. You can actually feel yourself doing your intention, your desire, what you want inside your imagination. For example, really fast, let's say you want a dream car. You can actually feel you driving that car. You can feel that you're sitting in the seats. You can actually smell the new car smell. That the new car smell has that very unique smell to it. You can smell the new car smell. You can feel the leather wrapping around the steering wheel. Okay, you can feel how it shifts. You can hardly turn if you're driving a luxury car. Maybe you're driving a manual where you're shifting. Okay, so that's feeling the wish fulfilled. Inside your imagination, you're actually doing it. You're not looking at it from like a third party. Okay, and the reason why I bring that up is lots of times in our imagination, we actually see ourselves doing it from like an outside. It's almost like I'm seeing, like I'm up in the clouds somewhere and I'm looking down at myself, seeing myself do it. It's not seeing yourself do it. It's actually doing it inside your imagination. If you want your dream house, you're actually inside your dream house. You're walking through every room. You're actually, you can, if you have great big family get-togethers, you're there having a blast. You're feeling it. That's how you get this stuff to work. Okay, that's what you want to do inside your imagination. That's why in part 1 we did this scripting exercise, because the scripting exercise really helps you to get very specific on what you want. And if you do this scripting exercise the right way, and you're doing it every single day, what you'll find is, even when you're writing, because writing has power, even when you're writing, you kind of go inside your imagination and you can start seeing yourself inside your intention. You start seeing yourself doing and achieving your desire. Now, the next part of the imagination is Neville Goddard has always coined the phrase, you live in the end. Okay, when you live in the end, you act as if it's already occurred. That's what living in the end means. So when you go inside your imagination, the perfect time to do this is right before bed. So if you can, we can't do this every single time, every single night, but if you can go to bed about 30 minutes before you're going to go to sleep, and you lay down, you go inside your imagination, and you live in the end, you keep on replaying it in your mind, and you keep on replaying, and you keep on doing it until you really have an immense feeling. Maybe it's excitement, but it's a really immense feeling. Maybe it could be gratitude, and you actually go to sleep in that state. Once you go to sleep in that state, that impresses the subconscious mind. Remember, the subconscious mind cannot dictate between what's reality and what's not reality. It just takes it as fact. It takes it as true. Now, how long do you live in the end? You live in the end all the time. Okay, that's the kind of key to this, is you live in the end inside your imagination, but you also act as if you live in the end inside your imagination, plus in your present moment, in your present life, you live in the end. You act as if it's already have occurred. Now, I'm going to leave you at that point, because now we're going to move on to part 2 of this. This is the second part of part 2. Now, the second part of this, Neville Goddard even has taken it a step further. Besides living in the end, a lot of his teachings, he talks about actually dwelling in the end. So when he says dwell in the end, what does this really mean? What does this really mean in terms of our intention, of our want, our desire, of living in the end? But now he's saying we dwell in the end. We just don't live in the end. We actually dwell in the end. And I'm going to share with you a story, not my personal story for you, but a story between Neville Goddard and Abdullah. And I'll actually share with you here the actual audio that Neville Goddard tells the story with his live audio. Plus, I'll put the title down here so you can go back to my playlist and actually look it up. So that way you can actually listen to Neville Goddard tell this story. But just to recap it very fast, and he's talking about dwelling in the end, but he's actually talking about his mentor Abdullah, and he tells a little story. During that time of Neville Goddard's story, he wanted to go home. And it was around the holidays, it was around the Christmas time. He hasn't been home for years. So I think during that time, I don't know if he was kind of
financially low a little bit. He didn't have really the money to go home. But anyway, he wanted to go home, and he went to his mentor, Abdullah. So Abdullah is the one that trained him as far as setting an intention, setting a desire, and you go inside your imagination and you live in the end. Abdullah is the one that mentored him and coached him in this process. But what's very interesting, I want you to peek up your ears here. What's very interesting is that Neville Goddard wanted to go home, and during that time they had such a thing called third class. And what happened was, inside Neville Goddard's imagination, he went home first class, and he went by ship. He didn't go by airplane, he went by ship. But inside his imagination, he was able to go home. He saw himself going home, but he went first class. But what happened was kind of unique, and it happens to most of us, is that the day before that he was going to go, that he either went by, they called him in, he went in to kind of check on it, and they basically told him, well, you can't go first class, Neville. The only spot we have for you is third class. But at this particular moment, Neville Goddard was actually excited because he was still able to go home. Okay, even though he wasn't going first class like he was inside his imagination, but he would still be able to go home. So he was actually excited. So he actually ran back to tell Abdullah. And what's interesting, Abdullah actually got kind of angry with Neville. And Abdullah said, no, you didn't go third class. You went first class. You were already there, Neville. Once you go inside your imagination, it's already been done. You've already been there and done it. And when you went there, you went first class. And he basically turned around and slammed the door in Neville's face. So Neville was kind of astonished, and it got Neville thinking that, well, it is true. Inside his imagination, he went home and he went first class. But what was amazing is the very next day when he went to the ship, they actually upgraded him to first class. Once we go inside our imagination, okay, it's happened. It's occurred. Okay, that's how strong, that's the power that we have. That's the power of our imagination. If we can see it in our imagination, what that means is it can happen. Once we see it and once we believe, it will occur. And that's what Abdullah was basically telling Neville Goddard. Even though Abdullah was kind of angry and upset with Neville at that time in this particular moment, but what Abdullah was saying was, Neville, you've seen it in your imagination. You went home. You went first class. It's already done. You've already been there and done it. So don't change their circumstances. That's basically what Abdullah is telling Neville. So now let's kind of flip back and kind of dissect this a little bit. When Neville Goddard talks about dwelling in the end, not just living in the end, but actually dwelling in the end. We're taking it a step further now. So let's kind of jump on Google here for a second, because I want to kind of break this word down, dwelling. What does dwelling really mean? So when we go on Google, just for basic research, when you dwell in something, you actually live in, or you're at a specific place. Okay, and dwelling means you living in a place of residence. You're living in a home. That's what dwelling means. You're living there. Okay, if we take it a little bit further, a dwelling is a home where someone lives. Houses, apartments, condos, that's what dwelling means. Take it simple. When Neville Goddard says dwell in the end, what he's really meaning is whatever your attention is, once you go inside your imagination, you dwell there. In your present moment, in your present life, today, you actually live there. You dwell in that place. That's what living in the end really means. It means dwelling in the end. You live there like you live at home. Now, maybe it's a home or a luxury home or a dream house that's your intention, but you actually live there now. Okay, maybe it's a car. You actually have it now. Maybe it's an income. It's a big salary. You want to be a millionaire, but you're actually a millionaire now. That's what it means, dwelling in the end. You actually have it now. Now let's take it a little bit deeper, but let's move on to the third part. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to part 2, section 3. It's called Dwell Therein. Now, in this section, we're going to dig deeper into how to live in the end, how to dwell in the end, because this is where a lot of people get flubbed up a little bit. We think we're living in the end, we think we're dwelling in the end, but we're really not. Now, what we're doing is I'm taking it out of Neville Goddard's book called The Law and the Promise. We're focused on chapter 2, and it's called Dwell Therein. Chapter 2 is so powerful because Neville Goddard has a pupil, and his pupil wanted to put Neville Goddard to the test, put the law of assumption to the test, put what Neville Goddard was saying. You set an intention, you go inside your imagination, and you live in the end. He wanted to put this to the test to see if this really worked. This is a powerful story, so let's get rocking. Now I'm going to start off with a quote here. I wish it was true of a man's noble dreams, but unfortunately, perpetual construction, deferred occupancy is a common fault of man. Why build a stately habitation unless you intend to dwell therein? What this means is that why go inside your imagination? Why live in the end? Why dwell in the end if you're not really living there inside your imagination? Why do all these exercises and you're not really living there? Why build a dream house and not dwell therein? This is the secret of those who lie in bed awake while they dream things true. They know how to live in their dream until, in fact, they do just that. Now, let's dive into this story. The story begins with a doctor and his wife. This is where the story unfolds. Now, the doctor and his wife was a pupil of Neville Goddard. Now, they attended one of his live lectures, or Neville Goddard also had like VIP meetings and different meetings for customers and stuff like that. So I don't know where they fit into that. I just know that from the book that this is one of his pupils. So this is what went on. For many years, a doctor and his wife dreamed about their stately habitation, but not until they imaginatively lived in it did they manifest it. So this is the nutshell of the story. The doctor had his own little clinic, and they owned a plot of land kind of right on the corner of their clinic, of his office. Okay, and on this plot of land, the plot of land was empty, and their dream was to build an apartment complex and have all the apartments inside be rented out. That was their dream, but unfortunately, they had no money. Now, they did have a savings, so he was honest. They did have basically like an emergency fund. So they technically had the money to build the apartment complex, but they didn't want to use it because it would have bankrupted the business. It would have put them in jeopardy. If anything went wrong with his doctor's practice, they would have had no money to actually live. So they didn't want to use none of their resources, none of their money, because it was more like an emergency fund like we would have today. So the story kind of unfolds. So really the doctor and his wife really wanted to put Neville Goddard to the test. They wanted to put setting an intention, do scripting, and living in the end, dwelling in the end, inside their imagination. They wanted to put all this to the test to see if it really worked. Now, let's really get into this story. Now, the doctor's telling the story. We decided to put it to the test, to forget about money and concentrate our attention on the thing we desire most in this world, our new apartment building. So they only focused inside their imagination of their apartment building. They had no money to do it, so they weren't focused on the money. They just focused on building this apartment building and renting it out with no money, no personal resources of their own. Then this is how they did scripting. This is why scripting in the beginning of this training, part 1, is so powerful. This is why I'm having you do scripting, because it's so powerful. And I actually learned this from this story when I started scripting myself. It's with the principle in mind, we mentally constructed the new building as we wanted it, actually drawing physical plans so we could better formulate our mental picture of the completed structure. This is the power of scripting, my friends. Lots of times what we want, and once we try to go into our imagination is faulty a little bit because we haven't used our imagination since we're probably 5 years old. So it's kind of faulty, it's really rusty. So So this is why scripting is so powerful, because when you sit down and they built plans, they did research, they constructed each room, how it's going to look, how big the building was going to be, and that really gave them a very insight and very easy to go inside their imagination and actually walk through their apartment building, actually see it, actually walk through every single room. The scripting process, and they kind of did the scripting very, very anal with this, but it really helped them. It really helped them to see and imagine and actually live in the end. And they continued, never forgetting to think from the end. In our case, the completed occupied building. We took many imaginary trips through our apartment house, renting the units to imaginary tenants, examining in every detail, every room, and enjoying the feeling of pride as friends offered congratulations on the unique planning. So they constructed it, they scripted this out. Okay, so I can't say it enough. Do the scripting. Do the scripting as well with your imagination, with your intention, because it will help intensify your imagination. It will help day by day. It's not going to get better in one time, one use, but as you continue your scripting, your imagination will get stronger and stronger and stronger, and it will get more detailed. And that's what you really want. You want the detail inside your imagination. Decisions in the end. One day, while talking together of our building, my wife mentioned a contractor who had constructed several apartment houses in our neighborhood. We knew of him only by the name that appeared on the signs adjacent to the buildings under construction. Now, this is very important, like in red here. I want you to read this, and I'm going to read it to you. But realizing that if we were living in the end, we would not be looking for a contractor. We promptly forgot this angle. So this is so powerful, my friends. Okay, listen to what's happening here. Okay, they set an intention inside their imagination. They already own their apartment building. Okay, they already renting it out. They put no personal resources to this apartment building. Okay, so what they're doing is now they're living in the end, and they realized, like most of us, we try to control the how. We start thinking to ourselves, well, I have to run around and find a contractor to help build my apartment. But then they realized, if we're really living in the end, if we're really dwelling in the end, we wouldn't be looking for a contractor because our apartment building is already built. It's already up, and it's already being rented. All the apartments in the building are all rented. So if you're really living in the end at that moment, our decision in present moment, in present time, right now, we wouldn't be looking for a contractor. Dwelling in the end. You make decisions in your present life based upon dwelling in the end. This is what I'm talking about. This is what I just explained. We make decisions in our present life that align with our intention inside our imagination, that align with living in the end. That's how we do this. I mean, for example, if a lot of people want money, they want to attract money. Maybe you want to be a millionaire. But are your decisions you're making in your present life align with you already being a millionaire? Because if inside your imagination, if you live in the end, dwell in the end as you're a millionaire, it's already happened. It's already occurred. You're already a millionaire now. So your decisions in present moment cannot conflict with you being a millionaire. This is why things are not working for us. Our decisions in present life has to align with our dwelling in the end, has to align with our living in the end. Continuing these periods of daily imagining for several weeks, we both felt we were now fused with our desire and had successfully been living in the end. So now they're basically saying the reason why they didn't look for a contractor, because they've been set the intention, going inside their imagination. They've been living in the end, dwelling in the end for several weeks. Now, I don't really know what several weeks mean. In retrospect, several weeks for me it could mean a month, 2 months, 3 months. So we don't really know how long they've been doing it. But what they said is that they've been doing it so long that now they felt fused with it. So now what I like to do is look at the word fused. Let's have some fun here for a second. Okay, let's look at the definition of fused. Now, by definition, from fused means joined together into a whole. I don't mean a fuse you put, you blow a fuse in your house and you change it. We mean fuse. It's fused together. It combines. It becomes a whole. It becomes one. That's what they mean. Another definition is joined or blended to form a single entity. Okay, basically what's happening, here's your imagination. Okay, here's your intention. Here's you living in the end. This is what you want. This is your life. Now, in the beginning, when we start doing this, it's two separate entities. When you finally really dwell in the end, it becomes fused together into one. Meaning you actually have inside your imagination, you actually dwell within, you actually live there until you see it in your reality. Another definition is when two things are fused, they become one fused whole, permanently attached and combined. So that's what they mean. It's permanent. Once they fuse together, once you wake up one day, a light bulb pops off, and you realize that you've been dwelling in the end. You actually believe it. You believe it to your core. You're fused with it. You start carrying yourself, acting as if that it's already occurred. You already have. That's when you're fused with it, and that's when, at the moment when things start to basically quickly start coming into your life, just like in this story. So let's get rocking. Now this is where the meat and potatoes really come into play. This is where it gets really interesting. And I call this the first refusal. So let me read this to you. One day, a stranger entered our office and identified himself as the contractor whose name my wife had mentioned weeks before. In an apologetic manner, he said, "I don't know why I stopped in here. I normally don't go see people, but rather people come see me." He explained that he passed our office often and had wondered why there wasn't an apartment building on the corner lot. So remember, the doctor and his wife owned the land of the corner lot. And this contractor, just by chance, just by thought, wanted to go in and talk to him. Well, why isn't there a building on this corner lot? And remember, this contractor is very successful. He's probably very rich, but very successful during that time in that area. So if you're a successful contractor, you're not really searching for customers. Your customers are coming to you. But all of a sudden, he has this urge to actually go in and talk to him and actually ask, why isn't there a building on this corner lot right here? We assured him we would like very much to have such a building there, but that we had no money to put into the project, not even a few $100s it would take for plans. And this is very interesting what they said. Our negative response did nothing to faze him and seemingly compelled. He began to figure and devise ways and means to carry out the job unasked and unencouraged by us. So basically, they're taking dwelling in the end. They're taking what Neville Goddard is saying to the very limit here. They're actually refusing. Somebody came in to help them to actually build the building. But remember, inside their imagination, inside dwelling there, inside living in the end, dwelling in the end, their apartment building was already built. And they put no money into it. They put no personal resources. So they just basically let the contractor come in, talk to him, and they just said, "Oh, no, thanks for coming." They just let him leave. They didn't jump on the opportunity because the apartment building was already built. It was already theirs, and they put no personal resources to it. Then it happened again. They denied a second time. Forgetting the incident, we were quite startled when a few days later this man called, informing us that plans were completed and that the proposed building would cost us $30,000. We thanked him politely and did absolutely nothing. So now he comes back with a plan, tells them it's going to cost them $30,000, and they denied it. They were nice to him, but still denied it. Why? Because inside their imagination, inside living in the end, They paid no money for their apartment building. And this is what they said. We knew we had been living imaginatively in the end of a completed building, and that imagination would assemble that building perfectly without any outside assistance from us. Again, a third refusal. So we were not surprised when the contractor called again the next day to say he had found a set of blueprints in his files that fitted our needs perfectly, with a few alterations. This, we were informed, would save us the architect's fee for new plans. Again, we thanked him again and still did nothing. So a third refusal, my friends. So each time he's coming back cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. But see, he really wants to help them to put a building on this corner lot. The fourth refusal doesn't stop. Logical thinkers would insist that such negative response from prospective customers would completely end the matter. Instead, 2 days later, the contractor again called with the news that he had located a finance company willing to cover the necessary loan with the exception of a few $1,000s. And they continue. It sounds incredible, but we still did nothing. Even though he lowered it way down to, it was only going to cost them out of pocket a few $1,000s. And they still denied, they were polite, and they still did nothing. They basically was just like, thanks for giving us the information, and we appreciate it, but they still did nothing with it. I mean, again, because when they live in the inn, dwell in the inn, they put no personal resources to this building. And when they live in the inn, they saw their apartment building already completed, already all the apartments in the building were rented out. That's what they were imagining. That's how they were living in the inn. And they're refusing all these offers coming in. Now, let's take a side note here. Let's talk about logical thinkers here for a second. So the word logical thinkers, let's kind of dive into our conscious mind and subconscious mind very quickly. Now, our conscious mind versus our subconscious mind. Remember, our conscious mind is our reasoning mind. It's our thinking mind, okay? It's very logical. It's our logical mind. This is why we end up controlling the how. This is why when you talk about law of attraction, law of assumption, when you set an intention, and you do scripting, go inside your imagination, we struggle living in the end because we're trying to control the how. We're trying to control where it's coming from. See, that's our conscious mind. That's because our conscious mind is very logical, meaning, step 1 has to occur, then step 2 and step 3 and step 4. It's a very logical sequence of events that has to occur in order for us to get what we want. So that's our conscious mind versus our subconscious mind. Now, our subconscious mind is what we're really trying to influence here when we go into our imagination, when we live in the inn, dwell in the inn, we're really influencing our subconscious mind. Okay, when we do this right before sleep and we go to sleep in that state, we go to sleep in that feeling state of imagining living in the inn, we're influencing our subconscious mind. The reason why our subconscious mind is so powerful is because it accepts anything we give it as fact. It doesn't matter if it's positive or negative, it accepts it as fact. Our subconscious mind isn't a comedian. It doesn't know that we're joking, we're telling jokes. It's just accepting it as true. But the most powerful thing with our subconscious mind is very illogical. Meaning, once we fuse with it, once we fuse with our intention, once we fuse with our living in the end, things can come to us very illogical. It doesn't have to have a logical sequence of events. It just comes to us in any way possible because that's what we've been thinking and influencing our subconscious mind. Everything happens illogical. Sometimes it's out of the blue. Everything happens. Now remember, to us, this building was completed and rented. And in our imagination, we had not put one penny into its construction. So they basically stayed firm on their decision. They stayed firm on their intention. They stayed firm with inside their imagination. Once they dwelled in the end, lived in the end, they stayed firm with it. Once they saw themselves built the building, it's rented out, they put no money to it, they literally stuck to that. They stuck to it. They stuck to the fact that we put no money of our personal resources in the building of this building. So they stuck to it as far as living in the inn. The acceptance. They finally did accept the offer, but this is what the offer was. The balance of this tale reads like a sequel to Alice in Wonderland. For the contractor came to our office the next day and said, as though presenting us with a gift, listen to this. You people are going to have that new building anyway. I've decided to finance the balance of the loan myself. If this is agreeable, I'll have my lawyer draw up the papers and you can pay me back out of the net profits from the rentals. Now at this point, they accepted the offer, they signed the papers, and they got the apartment building built with no personal resources of their own. And they went on to say that before the apartment complex building was even built, most of the apartments were actually rented out. So our dream of 15 years was realized. And we now know that it could have been realized any time within those 15 years. If you would have known the secret of imagining and how to live in the end of desire. But now it was realized. Our one big desire was objectified, and we did not put one penny of our own money into it. Dr. M. See, this is a powerful story. When I read this and heard this and listened to it and read it myself, this was so powerful. This is exactly how we live in the end, dwell in the end, is we make decisions in our present life as we would, acting as if everything is true of our intention. And this is a question for you. Are you dwelling in the end? Are you dwelling within? Are you living in the end? Are you really doing it? Because in the beginning, it's easy to say that you set an intention, I'm doing the scripting, I'm imagining, I'm trying to fall asleep in that state. But are you really living in the end? Are you really acting as if? Are you really dwelling in the end, just like the doctor and his wife in this story? Are you making decisions in your own present life that are fused with your intention? And let me give you an example before we leave. Just like most people want money, most people want to be a millionaire, or they want big salaries, or they want to double their salary. But are you making decisions in your present life that align with your intention of having a double salary, making $100,000 a month, being a millionaire? Are your decisions now fusing with your intention, fusing with living in the end? That's where the power comes from, is because we become so fused with it, we act as if, but in our present moment, in our present life, because life continues, of course, we're making decisions that fuse with it. I mean, just like if I want to be crazy enough, just like this story, if I sit there and say I'm a millionaire, I make $100,000 a month, what in turn would I be searching for a job? No, I wouldn't, because I'm already a millionaire. Make sense? Would I be worried about money? No, I wouldn't, because I'm already a millionaire. Would I be worried about paying my bills? No, I wouldn't, because I'm already a millionaire. If I happen to go out to eat and the bill's a little bit larger than expected, would I have a mental breakdown over it? No, I wouldn't, because I'm already a millionaire. So this is how we start fusing with it. Okay, we have to make decisions in our present life that align with our intention, that align with living in the end. That's how we get so much power from this. This is what they were doing. They used scripting to really script out their intention, to really script out so they can really easily go inside their imagination and get more and more detailed. Once you get more and more detailed, it becomes more and more powerful for you. Then then as you do it day in and day out and day in and day out, whatever that number is, I don't know if it's days, weeks, months, whatever that number is. One day you're gonna wake up and you're gonna become so fused with what you want. You're gonna become so fused with your intention that it becomes real for you. And when it becomes real, when your subconscious mind takes over and it becomes true, everything will start falling into place rather quickly, my friends. But other than that, let's move on to part 3.
Hey everybody, welcome to part 3 of the Lost Secrets of Neville Goddard. Now right now, I am in Thailand, by the way. I am at a street market, so it's crazy busy behind me. So this is the perfect opportunity to talk to you about part 3 here. Now in part 1 and part 2, really the Neville Goddard, the law of assumption, with any type of law of attraction, it is all about us. It's about like what Chad can get. It's all about me. And there's nothing wrong with that. So it's not me being ungrateful. It's not me saying, oh, we shouldn't just focus on ourselves. But in part 3 here, when we look at ourselves as a spiritual being, really what is the responsibility of a spiritual being? Okay, think about it here for a second. What's the responsibility of a spiritual being? Okay, now, if you follow Neville Goddard, you listen to a lot of his audios, and one of his best ones, one of the best books I really like, is called The Pruning Shears of Revision. I'll post it down below, plus I'll give you a link right here inside my playlist so you can listen to it. I'm not going to go over all of it, but the key point that Neville Goddard points out, and he points out in a lot of his live lectures, that we should see people more than what they are. As a spiritual being, my responsibility, all this stuff I know about law of assumption, law of attraction, manifesting, abundance training, all the stuff that I know it's not just a selfish behavior. It's not just for me. Our responsibility of a spiritual being is see people more than what they see themselves. Okay? It's the same thing with you. You would set an intention, go inside your imagination, live in the end. You would do the same process for other people. You would see them inside your imagination more than they see themselves. Okay, let me give you a couple of examples here. This one might hit home a little bit for some of you. It kind of hit home for me a little bit. Maybe inside your family, maybe you have an alcoholic that's an uncle. Maybe you have a drug addict. Maybe you have someone that wants to quit smoking, but they struggle with smoking. But inside your imagination, you see them already cured, already healed. They don't struggle no more. That's a responsibility that we have, is inside our imagination, we see them better than what they see themselves. Okay? But we actually do the opposite, especially like maybe some family get-togethers and stuff like that. We sit around the table talking about Uncle Tom, how he's been struggling with drugs for 20 years, so why don't he quit? If it was me, I would have quit, blah, 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 blah. But what we have to understand is when we talk about other people, in that way, in that manner, it actually brings them down. Our energy actually holds them back. All this stuff applies. I mean, this is kind of a higher spiritual talking here, but what we have to understand is the same power that we have to Chad can get what he wants. I can get anything I want, live any lifestyle I want. If I truly believe that, well, my responsibility to that is I apply that same abundance, I apply that same power to other people to help other people. That's a responsibility, my friends. That's the next step to this. And it really helps. The more you kind of train in this, the more you kind of keep this as a behavior, you really stop looking at people so negative. I mean, lots of times it can be a habit of ours, is like we look at people so negative. When we see someone drive a nice car, we immediately kind of get jealous a little bit. We immediately say something sarcastic about them, even though we don't really know them. We immediately put them down. Why are we putting them down? Bless that which you want. Bless that person. That's the power we have. As you bless what you want, more stuff comes to you. See, all this stuff is reciprocal. Hopefully this stuff was helpful. Thank you for sticking around, and I'll see you inside the bonus section.
Hey everybody, welcome to the bonus section here. And in the bonus section, we're really going to have a little heart-to-heart talk here. Really why things are not working for you. Okay, you watched part one, part one and section two of part one. You watch part two with the three sections in there. We're not going to so much cover part three here. We're really just going to focus on ourselves here, why things are not working, and I'm going to go over just a couple things. Because lots of times what happens is, especially we're in that personal development space, we're in that manifesting abundance space. We know this material, okay? We can debate this material, we can talk about this material, but we're not really getting results that we really want. That's really bottom line. If you can sit back and say, well, Chad, I'm not really getting the results that I really want, then something's really missing. One of the things when I used to study with Bob Proctor, I used to go to a lot of his seminars before he passed away, is that in every single seminar, he would say this: the reason why you're not getting what you want is you have to be super honest with yourself. The bottom line, the reason why you're not getting what you want, the reason why people are not getting what they want is because they're not honest with themselves. They basically lie to themselves. You know what I mean? And this is what I mean, really quick here, is we say we've been doing the exercises for 3 months, but in reality, we only did the exercises for 2 weeks and we stopped. 3 months later, then we start doing exercises again. But then when you talk to somebody, you say, well, it's not working for me. I've been doing this for months. But you really haven't been doing it for months. You really only did it for 2 weeks. Then you stopped. Then you waited for 3 or 4 months. And you continued it. You picked it back up. But you didn't really do it consistently the entire time. So this is the first point that I want to point out here, is that you have to stay persistent. You have to stay consistent at it. Okay, this is why even Neville Goddard and Napoleon Hill has even stated that your intention is your burning desire. It's something you really, really want. You're not going to give up on it. Okay, you have to stay persistent and consistent. And a lot of times when you do personal development, you're studying, you jump on YouTube, you jump on social media, maybe you take people's programs. They always preach immediate gratification. Okay, immediate gratification does not work, my friends. It doesn't work. Okay, that's a marketing tactic. Okay, that's a marketing tactic to sell their products, so forth and so forth. Immediate gratification does not work. When you fall into that immediate gratification, you fall into this great big hamster wheel. You're on this wheel going. That wheel can last weeks, months, and years, and you're just still doing the same thing over and over and over until you get off that wheel, get off that hamster wheel, and really figure out what's going on. The bottom line is you have to stay persistent, you have to stay consistent, and you have to be really honest with yourself. I mean, are you really consistent with this? Are you really persistent with it? Because I'm just talking about from personal experience. I'm human too. Sometimes I can do something for an entire month, then basically life happens, okay, as an adult, and we stop for whatever reason. 6 months go by, and then I realize, dude, it's been 6 months. I haven't done this for 6 months. I haven't done my exercises for 6 months. And then I start back up, which is fine. But then when someone asks you how long you've been doing it, you should be honest about it. The more you're honest about things, the clearer it gets. Another thing about being persistent is that lots of times we haven't used our imagination since we were 5 years old. Since we're like 3, 4, 5 years old. Once we started getting old enough to go to school, kindergarten, first grade, elementary school, that's usually when our parents, it was either beat out of us as a kid not to use your imagination, or it was not cool to use your imagination. That's what's being taught to us. Or when we actually go to school, teachers are like, well, you're a big kid now. You're a big kid now, Chad. You don't go inside your imagination. So we haven't used our imagination since we're probably 5 or 6 years old. So that being said, you're probably pretty rusty. Even for myself, I'm pretty rusty, okay? That's why the scripting exercise, if you can really stay with it and keep on doing it every single day and not get caught up into this like, oh, well, how long should I do it, Chad? 3 days or 7 days? You should keep on doing it until you really fuse with your intention. When you really fuse with living in the end, that's when you just keep on doing it because it's helping you get more and more detailed. And this isn't my notebook for my scripting, but right now my scripting with the intention I set here, I'm on day 10 or day 11. And this is what I find, like once I hit about day 9, I started getting super, super specific when with my intention, what I set. Like in the beginning, I was kind of struggling with it, but I still did it every single day, and I still kind of did my bedtime routine. But it wasn't until almost day 9 where things started to click a little bit. Now, right now, I'm not really fused with it yet, like in my opinion, because I still have days where I feel fused with it, and maybe the next day I don't. You know what I mean? But the scripting exercise, really do this, even if it takes 20-30 minutes of your time sometime throughout the day. I mean, really do this and really know this is your why, this is your burning desire. Okay, you're changing your life, you're getting stuff that you want. Okay, so how big is your why? How bad do you really want it? If we're kind of debating over, oh my God, Chad, I gotta give up 20 minutes of my life to do this scripting exercise. Well, if we're having that type of conversation, then you don't want it bad enough. Okay. If you can't sit down in the morning and find extra time, well, you don't want it bad enough. If you want to do this exercise before you go to work, well, get up a half hour earlier. If you can't do that, you don't want it bad enough. If you can't fit it in at your lunchtime at work, well, maybe you don't want it bad enough. Or even if you wait till you get home, well, maybe you don't want it bad enough. What's your why? It's lots of times our intentions, it just doesn't change our lives. It's changed people's lives around us. Okay, even if we want money or more money, well, more money just doesn't affect me. It affects everybody around me because I can play a bigger game. Bottom line, if I'm a giver, I'm a helper, I like to help people. Well, I'm able to do that when I have money. You know what I mean? It just doesn't affect me. It affects other people around me. Now, the second thing I want to talk about here is I want to play a little game you do. Most of the time what we do, and I'm guilty of this too, and I just had a brief moment when I woke up, like today, doing this, is that we have our little glasses here. We put them on, okay? Now, these are my, where is it glasses? Controlling the how glasses. I'm looking around, I put on my magnifying glasses and I start looking. I start looking where it's coming from. I look over here, I look over here, I look down, I check my computer and be like, how can I control the how? I don't see it coming in. I don't see it coming in yet, Chad. And we have on our magnifying glasses and we're really looking, we're really trying to control, we're using a logical mind. Now since we're awake, our conscious mind overtakes our subconscious mind. Our conscious mind is in control. Now our conscious mind, again, is our logical mind. Okay, it's trying to find logical sequences. Okay, step 1, I gotta do this. Step 2, I gotta do this. Step 3, I gotta do this. Step 4, I gotta do this. Step 5, I gotta do this. I gotta do all these steps in order to get what I want. But what we gotta do is we gotta take off our controlling the how sunglasses. You know what I mean? We got to take off our glasses. Okay, we got to let go. Now, this is easier said than done because even for myself, I'm an overthinker. I'm an overanalyzer. I'm very analytical. So that might be good in some areas. That might be good in some areas of business, but it's not good in this type of practice. It's not good in setting an intention, doing scripting, living in the end, dwelling within. Because the reason why it's not good is because I start thinking about controlling the how. I start thinking about where in the hell is it coming from? How in the world am I going to be a big millionaire? Okay, how in the world am I going to attract $100,000 every single month? Then my logical mind starts to take off. Okay, trying to figure out how it's going to happen. And what happens is when a logical mind starts to take off, when it can't see a way for it to happen, what happens is you quit, you stop, or you lower your goal, you lower your intention. But don't lower your intention, my friend. Don't lower your goal. Stay with it. Don't let your conscious mind, don't let your logical mind, don't let you control the how deter you from your goal. You just have to stick with it. Okay, you kind of have to dress like a knight, have your shield, have your sword, have armor on, and even though you have those feelings, you still do the exercises. You still hold on. Okay, you still hang in there. Okay, you're kind of still pushing through the immense fog that you're in that moment. Okay, you just need to push through it. You don't give up. And sometimes this is how I know I'm controlling the how. Okay, and sometimes it's very subtle. And if this is what I know, if I'm controlling the how, well, I'm not living in the end. I'm not dwelling in the end. I'm not dwelling therein. If my mind goes off and I'm starting to try to control the how, well, I'm not fused with living in the end yet. I'm not fused with dwelling in the end yet. I mean, right now with my attention, I'll be honest, like right now, the attention I set is like someday I'm kind of back and forth. Okay. I'm not way over here. I'm not way over here with it. I'm kind of back and forth with it. I have several days in a row where I feel like I'm dwelling within. I'm acting as if, okay, I'm living in the end. Then I kind of have mixture of days where I kind of go back to where I feel a little bit internal anxiety. I feel that I'm trying to control the how more. I'm starting to look for it. I'm starting to, internal dialogue. Okay, what's going on? Internal dialogue is I'm trying to, well, I don't see it yet. Has it occurred yet? Well, what that means is I'm not really fused with dwelling in the end yet. Okay, I'm getting close. I'm getting closer, but there's still tension there. My conscious mind is still fighting against me a little bit. But it doesn't mean I stop. Okay, all it means is like, hey, I'm getting closer. Okay, some days I have good days, some days I kind of have not so good days, but I'm getting closer, I'm getting better. Okay, and I still do my exercise, I still do my scripting, I still do my night routine, my nighttime routine and morning routine. I still do this stuff because eventually I'm gonna wake up one day. Eventually a light bulb's gonna pop on and I'm gonna fuse with it. And I'm gonna end you with this. I'm gonna end you with the good news here. Even Neville Goddard has stated in his later lectures that all you have to do, listen to this, all you have to do is influence your subconscious mind one time. Okay? All you have to do is do it one time. You have to do this one time the right way. That's all you need, baby. You just need to influence one time. Okay? All you need to do is do this thing one time and you influence your subconscious mind. All you need to do is be able to go to sleep in that feeling state inside your imagination that it's really occurred. You really have that immense feeling and fall asleep in that state. You just need to do it one time, not many times. Okay, now we might be doing a bedtime routine every single night, but the good news is you just need to do it once. And once you do it once you influence your subconscious mind one time, it doesn't matter. At that point, it doesn't matter if you want it or don't want it, it's going to come to you. It doesn't matter if you forget about it, it's going to come to you. And once you influence your subconscious mind, remember, your subconscious mind is very illogical. It's very illogical. Okay, when you just truly let go of the how, you truly fuse with your intention. And at that point, once you influence your subconscious mind, you fuse with it. Once you fuse with it, it's going to come to you rather fast, and it's going to come to you illogical. Okay, it's going to come to you from an angle you're not even expecting. That's how it comes to you. And what I love is what Neville Goddard said. Neville Goddard said he's never seen it fail. He's never seen the law of assumption fail. He's never seen you set an intention, you go inside your imagination, you live in the end. He's never seen it fail. The only way it fails is if you give up and you don't persist. But Neville Goddard says he's never seen it fail. Other than that, my friends, blessings to you, and I'll see you in the next video.